A brief history of Petra. Petra, from the Latin word petrae, meaning rock, lies in a great rift valley east of Wadi Araba in Jordan, about 80 kilometers south of the Dead Sea. It came into prominence in the late 1st century BC through the success of the spice trade. The city was the principal city of ancient Nabataea and was famous above all for two things: its trade and its hydraulic engineering systems. It was locally autonomous until the reign of Trajan, but it flourished under Roman rule. The town grew up around its Colonnaded Street in the 1st centuries and by the mid-1st century had witnessed rapid urbanization. Following the flow of the Wadi Musa, the city centre was laid out on either sides of the Colonnaded Street on an elongated plan between the theatre in the east and the Qasr al-Bint in the west. The quarries were probably opened in this period, and there followed virtually continuous building through the 1st and 2nd centuries. According to tradition, in ca. 1200 BCE, the Petra area, but not necessarily the site itself, was populated by Edomites and the area was known as Edom, Red. Before the Israelite incursions, the Edomites controlled the trade routes from Arabia in the south to Damascus in the north. Little is known about the Edomites at Petra itself, but as a people they were known for their wisdom, their writing, their textile industry, the excellence and fineness of their ceramics, and their skilled metalworking. The next chapter of history belongs to the Persian period, and it is posited that during this time the Nabateans migrated into Edom, forcing the Edomites to move into southern Palestine. But little is known about Petra proper until about 312 BC, by which time the Nabateans, one of many Arab tribes, occupied it and made it the capital of their kingdom. At this time, during the Hellenistic rule of the Seleucids, and later, the Ptolemies, the whole area flourished with increased trade and the establishment of new towns such as Philadelphia, Rabat Ammon, modern Amman, and Gerasa, modern Jerash. Infighting between the Seleucids and Ptolemies allowed the Nabateans to gain control over the caravan routes between Arabia and Syria. Although there were struggles between the Jewish Maccabees and the Seleucid overlords, Nabatean trade continued. With Nabatean rule, Petra became the center for a spice trade that extended from Arabia to Aqaba and Petra, and onward either to Gaza in the northwest, or to the north through Amman to Bostra, Damascus, and finally on to Palmyra and the Syrian desert. Nabatean classical monuments reflect the international character of the Nabatean economy through their combination of native tradition and the classical spirit. But among the most remarkable of all Nabatean achievements is the hydraulic engineering systems they developed, including water conservation systems and the dams that were constructed to divert the rush of swollen winter waters that create flash floods. In 64–63 BCE, the Nabateans were conquered by the Roman general, Pompey, whose policy was to restore the cities taken by the Jews. However, he retained an independent Nabataea, although the area was taxed by the Romans and served as a buffer territory against the desert tribes. Completely subsumed by the Romans under the Emperor Trajan in 106, Petra and Nabataea then became part of the Roman province known as Arabia Petraea with its capital at Petra. In 131 Hadrian, the Roman emperor, visited the site and named it after himself, Hadrian Petra. The city continued to flourish during the Roman period, with a triumphal arch spanning the Sikh, and tomb structures either carved out of the living rock or built freestanding. Under Roman rule, Roman classical monuments abounded, many with Nabatean overtones. By 313, Christianity had become a state-recognized religion. In 330s, the Emperor Constantine established the Eastern Roman Empire with its capital at Constantinople. Although the 363 earthquake destroyed half of the city, it appears that Petra retained its urban vitality into late antiquity, when it was the seat of a Byzantine bishopric. The newly excavated Petra church with its papyrus scrolls document this period, especially in the 6th century, a phenomenon less well attested in other sites so far south of Amman. In this period there is also striking archaeological and documentary evidence for accommodation between Christians and the pagan aristocracy. Thereafter one can read the archaeology of a fragmented Middle Byzantine community living among and reusing the abandoned limestone and sandstone elements of its classical past. The inhabitants during the Byzantine period recycled many standing structures and rock-cut monuments, while also constructing their own buildings, including churches, such as the recently excavated Petra church with the extraordinary mosaics. Among the rock-cut monuments they reused is the great tomb or the Nabataea, known also as the monastery, which was modified into church. With a change in trade routes, Petra's commercial decline was inevitable. An even more devastating earthquake had a severe impact on the city in 551, and all but brought the city to ruin. With the rise of Islam, Petra became a backwater community. Petra was revealed to the Western world in 1812 for the first time since the Crusades, when it was rediscovered by the Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt.